Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins with Ebb and news reporter Annabelle Angel, riding horses towards a place that was once full of violence, but the war there has ended. They arrive in Arizona in 1881, where they meet Captain Hensley. Ebb introduces Annabelle to Captain Hensley, who is skeptical of Annabelle's plan to write an article about Arizona's conditions, thinking she is putting herself in danger. After getting permission, they leave. Ebb explains to Annabelle that the place they are visiting is a safe haven for criminals. Annabelle asks why the army doesn't raid the area, and after some discussion, Ebb warns her about the danger, before leaving. That night, Annabelle sits in her room, and starts writing. Hearing a noise, she goes outside and sees Jericho Ford and Gorn in a hotel, fighting, with Jericho easily defeating Gorn in the first round. However, in the second round, Gorn beats Jericho badly, but Jericho eventually manages to win. After the fight, Annabelle sits near Jericho, and hints that she has started liking him. At that moment, Al Longfellow arrives, recognizing Annabelle as a reporter, and revealing that Ebb had told him about her. He tells her that Jericho is not good at talking to women. At her request, he brings whiskey for Jericho. He then shares with her that he has been in Arizona from the beginning, and knows the area well. Their conversation is interrupted when George informs Jericho about George Hearst publication. Meanwhile, at a nearby table, Oslo Pike is playing cards with another man. Accusations of cheating escalate into a heated argument, resulting in Oslo shooting the man, and grabbing his drink. Mary, witnessing the chaos, tells Oslo to take the money and leave. Oslo, now with the money, approaches Jericho, leading to an argument. Longfellow intervenes, showing Oslo a gun, who grabs the gun, fires a shot into the air, and then leaves. The next day, Annabelle goes to Jericho's location. A military man and his soldiers confront her, and she explains that she is there to write an article on how the army can keep the area safe. The military man mocks her, and she, feeling threatened, pulls out a gun. The soldiers laugh, thinking she has never held a gun before, but she surprises them by shooting the man's ear. Jericho arrives just in time to see the man grab her. Jericho tells him to let her go, but the man orders Jericho to back off, who complies, putting down his gun, and retreating. However, he quickly turns the tables by shooting the two soldiers accompanying the military man, and demanding that Annabelle be released. The man, seeing no other option, lets her go, and taunts Jericho, saying that shooting him would make Jericho a murderer. Despite this, Jericho shoots and kills him. Shocked, Annabelle faints after calling out Jericho's name. Sometime later, she wakes up in a room, where a man named Wasco reassures her that she is safe. He asks what a white woman is doing alone in such a dangerous place. She tells him she is looking for the river, only to learn that the river has dried up. She inquires about Jericho, and Wasco informs her that he is outside. Jericho then enters the room, asking her why she is still there. She says she wanted to thank him for saving her, and discovers that Jericho and Wasco live together in the same house. After a brief conversation, she asks if she can interview Jericho. They all start talking and sharing stories and information. Meanwhile, Captain Hensley is reading a book, when an injured man stumbles in. The man recounts how Jericho and Wasco ambushed them, killing 3 of their men. He survived the attack, but did not see Jericho and Wasco clearly, except for Raphael, who fired at them. Hensley realizes that Jericho was protecting Annabelle, and that the situation is more complicated than he initially thought. The injured man shows him a news article with a picture of Jericho, confirming that Jericho was the man who attacked them. Hensley dismisses the man, proclaiming that he is a soldier, and that justice will flow like a river, and righteousness like a never-ending stream. At night, Annabelle questions Jericho and Wasco. Wasco explains that he was born in the area, and tells the story of how Jericho took a bad fall while hunting one day. Wasco and his people took Jericho in, and nursed him back to health. However, the army offered rewards for any Indian, dead or alive, and this led to further conflict. During their conversation, Jericho suddenly gets up and leaves. Wasco continues, recounting how the army came and committed atrocities, prompting Jericho to fight back. He tells her that these lands have seen enough bloodshed to last a lifetime. As someone approaches, Jericho points his gun, only to see that it is Mary. Jericho informs her about the recent shooting. Annabelle explains that Jericho and Wasco saved her, and in the process, shot 3 of Captain Hensley's men. Mary and Annabelle greet each other. Mary has brought vegetables and drinks, which makes Jericho very happy. The atmosphere lightens as they all share a meal together, but the underlying tension of the dangers surrounding them remains. The next day, Captain Hensley arrives at the hotel where Longfellow is. Longfellow asks what he is doing there, and he responds that one of the hotel's customers has killed his soldier. Longfellow insists that the incident did not happen inside his hotel, and that he has nothing to do with it. Hensley then addresses everyone in the hotel, announcing a $200 reward for bringing Jericho Ford in, dead or alive. Someone inquires about a reward for capturing a woman, and Hensley adds an extra $50 for her. He hands a photo to Longfellow, and leaves. Afterwards, Christine tells Longfellow that Jericho is not the kind of man Hensley is portraying him to be. They discuss the situation, agreeing that staying alive is more important than being innocent. Meanwhile, Annabelle visits Mary, and starts a conversation. She speaks about the importance of law and order. She then asks Mary if she loves Jericho, and Mary, after a moment, admits that she does. Annabelle expresses her intention to write Jericho's story. Mary, surprised, questions her motives. She reassures, saying her perspective is different, and she sees Jericho as more than what others might think. Mary reveals her doubts, saying she believes Jericho wouldn't want to spend his whole life with a whore. Annabelle counters, suggesting that her observations about him are different, and that there's more to him than meets the eye. After some time, Jericho tells Wasco that he will return by tomorrow, and Wasco advises him to stay away from drinking. Jericho, Annabelle and Mary are seen riding horses to an unknown destination. They drop Annabelle off at the hotel, and Mary continues riding with Jericho, towards Longfellow's hotel. On the way, she confesses that she would be happy to have a man like him in her life. They share a kiss, before parting ways, with her heading in one direction, and him continuing towards the hotel. Oslo watches Jericho from a distance. Annabelle begins writing her article in her hotel room. Meanwhile, Jericho enters the hotel, where Longfellow is reading the newspaper, who informs Jericho that he keeps the hotel closed in the afternoon, and that Captain Hensley has been there looking for him. Longfellow shows him a gun, and asks Annabelle to give it to him. Jericho reveals his own gun, and asserts that he follows his own rules. Suddenly, Longfellow shoots a man who is about to ambush Jericho. As Jericho steps out of the hotel, he is shot at by another man. He dodges the bullet, leading to a shootout. More people join the attack, but Jericho manages to shoot them all. Amid the chaos, Annabelle arrives and saves Jericho from being shot. They manage to escape and hide in a nearby house. Inside, she realizes she has blood on her hand, and discovers she has been shot. Meanwhile, Mary exits the house and encounters Oslo, who had been observing Jericho from a distance. Jericho takes the injured Annabelle to Wasco, who reassures her that she will be okay, and tries to save her. Meanwhile, Oslo brings Mary to Captain Hensley, claiming she has valuable information. Oslo asserts that, despite the number of men Hensley sends, he is the only one capable of killing Jericho. In exchange, he wants his name cleared of all criminal charges. After a long discussion, Hensley reluctantly agrees. Oslo then begins to harass Mary, demanding Jericho's whereabouts. Back to Jericho and Wasco, they are sitting by Annabelle, when Jericho suddenly gets up to leave. Wasco asks if he is going to kill someone, causing Jericho to angrily lash out, before storming off. He heads to a bar, where he encounters one of Hensley's men. Without hesitation, he shoots the man, downs a drink, and leaves. The next day, Wasco sits near Annabelle, waiting for her to wake up. When she finally wakes, she asks about Jericho. At night, Oslo finds Wasco, and shoots him. Wasco manages to escape, and hides where Annabelle is taking cover. Oslo follows, questioning him about Jericho, before fatally stabbing him with a knife. Annabelle witnesses the brutal scene from her hiding place, as Oslo leaves. The next day, Jericho arrives and discovers Wasco dead. Annabelle apologizes, but he assures her it's not her fault. They ride off together on a horse. Later, he brings her near the hotel, and places a gun in her hand for protection. Oslo brings Mary to Jericho, who asks Oslo to let her go. Mary approaches Jericho, and he asks her to take care of herself. A shootout ensues between Oslo and Jericho. In the midst of the gunfight, Mary shoots Oslo, causing him to collapse. Jericho ultimately takes aim and shoots Oslo, declaring it justice for his friend. Mary approaches him, and they share a kiss, finding solace in each other after the intense ordeal. They arrive at a secluded place, where he buries his bullet in the ground, symbolizing closure, and laying to rest the violence of the past. Elsewhere, a man brings Captain Hensley a newspaper, with Annabelle's article. Hensley reads it and tosses the paper aside, reflecting on the events that unfolded. George approaches him, praising the article and suggesting that one day, such a story will serve as inspiration for future generations. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.